Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, Nodu. I'm making the final. Hey, this thing's taking time, huh? But I'm about to finish.
Okay. Okay, so I can see myself on the Blue Frontier Path account using my phone.
Okay.
So far that's going okay.
Okay. All
right.
Okay.
Morning, Paul. Morning, Noluthando.
Morning, morning, Watu. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm great, thank you.
So, are you ready for our latest session? And
yeah.
So this time I wanted us to discuss, basically, the correlation between chess and mathematics.
Yes.
And and just make it, to make it easy for somebody who has not played chess before, just to sort of have a glance of what happens in the mind of somebody who would be playing chess, so that they could see that. Just to sort of have a glance of what happens in the mind of
Okay.
somebody who would be.
We've got an echo.
So that they could.
Is anyone maybe on Instagram Live? We've got an echo.
No, I've just checked my phone now, but I did hear the echo.
Okay, I think it should be fine now.
Is it fine now? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah. So so our main task would be to sort of make anybody who doesn't know how to play chess to understand, what actually happens. Because I've had many people ask me, we understand in principle that chess could be, a great aid,
Yes.
for somebody who wants to improve in mathematics, but how does it actually happen?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that our session will answer that, our today's session, and somebody will have, So should we get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into it. I'm excited. I'd love to test myself, as I've let my friends know that, I might just make myself a moomish here.
No, you will not. You will not. The point is that, just like with any other thing, when we're talking about a new concept, first you have to be able to understand, and then to be able to sort of apply, the application of whatever that you have learned. The process is not always easy, but the idea is just to show that it actually is possible, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Excellent. Do you have your pen and paper ready? Because you might need that to answer some of the questions.
Yes, I do have my pen and paper ready.
Excellent. All right. So what we're going to do, we are going to start with the chessboard. Yes. And the chessboard is important, of course, because that's where all the pieces move. Yes. And to understanding the concept of the board, I'm just going to, in a few seconds, remind you what is important on the chessboard. So we said the chessboard, there are 3 squares that are important, or rather 3 lines, excuse me.
Yes.
We have the file, which is the vertical line.
Yes.
There's 8 files, A to H. So all the squares here on the A file and all the way to H. Then we also have 8 ranks. So we have the ranks starting from 1 all the way to 8. So if you were to look at that line, that shows the all the squares on the first rank, second rank, third rank, all the way to the 8th rank. Now, where the file and the rank meet, that is where we would get a square. As an example, let us say over there. So I've just highlighted 2 directions, so to speak. So we have a square on the E file, and we have a sort of direction and another arrow that cross here. So we've got E file and 6th rank. So the name of that square would be E6, right?
Okay.
So then the next important line is the one where we actually talk about diagonals. So I'll make an example of a diagonal. So let us say this square here is A1, and the corner square is H8. So now the diagonal, though, the squares all have to be the same color. So you'll have, so for an example, this diagonal, it's a black diagonal. If we join the 2 squares, the diagonal will be called A1 to H8. That's what it would be called.
Okay.
Right?
Makes
okay, sense. Very good. Very good. So then the next important thing for us to realize is that the corner square, the right-hand square is H1, and H1 is always white. Yeah, the square on the right. The square on the right-hand side is always the white square.
Okay.
That is H1. It's quite important, for us to understand that part in chess. So now I'm going to ask you a very It could be simple, could be tricky,
Okay.
depending. But a very logical question. And the question is, I'm going to hide the board, for this one.
Oh, goodness.
And I will ask the question that, sorry about that. If age 1 is white, we know that.
Right.
Now let us talk about a square, let's say E5. So we are talking about a square on the E file on the 5th rank. So age 1 is white. E5, what would you say? Is E5 white or black?
So you said H1 is obviously white, as you mentioned, right?
Yes, ma'am.
E5 would then be, because obviously the colors on the squares alternate, right? So if
Absolutely.
H1 is white, then that means the next one, if I move back from H1, I go G, that's white, and I repeat that same pattern. So the square that I'm looking for, you said, is E5, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That would make it a black square.
Absolutely. So okay. E5 is black. So that is actually a test of logic. So we see that, okay, you've got, and in many cases, not only at school, but in life, this ability is, the understanding of this, is very important, because you are given, instructions, or you are given particular properties about whatever it is. And then using that, you have to find an answer or a solution or whatever. So that is exactly what we do. So that is a logical way of using squares to actually improve and develop logic, a logical way of looking at things. Very, very good. Okay, we're going to still be staying on. So that's when you pass with flying colors. Actually, I didn't expect you to get that so quickly. Okay, good. So now we're going to go to the next one. And the next one we're going to go to is going to be a little bit trickier, because it will involve actually more than just one square. Right? It will involve two squares, because we are talking about a diagonal. So it will involve two squares, and unfortunately 4 squares. So 2 squares and other 2, because we're talking about 2 diagonals, and we're trying to establish if these 2 diagonals would meet. So the diagonals we're going to be talking about are going to be on the white squares. So the one diagonal is going to start on A4. So you can just note these 4 squares. A4 to E8. Okay. A4 to E8.
Okay. A4 to E8. Okay.
Right. The next set of 4 squares, I'll make it a different color, will be A8 to age 1. Right. So these are the squares we're talking about.
Right.
So we're talking about these two diagonals. There's one diagonal starts at A4, ends on A8. The other one starts on age 1 and ends on A8. So they do meet, but the question then is, on which square do they meet?
So I quickly looked at where they meet when you were busy showing me the direction on the board. I'm confident about this one, that they meet at C6.
There you go. Bingo. They do. Let us double check. So let's make 100% sure to see if they do indeed meet at C6. So we've got 2 diagonals, A4 to E8. And the next one, let's make it a different color, is age 1 all the way to A8. So they do meet. And these diagonals meet at C6. But now let us, of course, you found a very, let's put it this way, a very mature and adult way to solve the problem, right? Which, but on the other hand, this problem, or rather this question, is sometimes, presented in many different ways. I'll make an example. So in many cases, you need to find what we call the common, common factor that would be in mathematics. Something that is common when you are looking at two different equations, lines, diagonals, whatever. So here
maybe we can say variables. Okay, yeah,
exactly. So now, for an example here, how we would actually solve this one, we would actually just solve it mathematically as well. As you know, there are many ways to solve a problem, right? Many methods. So if we were to use the mathematical approach, we would have to write down all the squares on each diagonal. For an example, we would also say A4, the next square would be B5, the next square would be C6.
Right, yes.
Notice I'm writing the squares on the diagonal, right? The next one would be B7, and then the last one would be E8. That would be one diagonal.
Right.
Then I would look at the other diagonal and say, okay, my starting diagonal on this other one is H1. The next one is G2.
2, yes.
The next one is F3.
F3.
E4. E4. D5. C6. B7. And A8. Then what do we notice? The common factor, or rather common square here is C6. So that means that the diagonals, they meet at C6, right?
Okay.
So that would be an important one. And we could also there are many questions we could go on this, and a very interesting one would be, let us imagine that the diagonals were of a different color. There's just a question that sort of pops in my head very quickly. Let's say the diagonal would be on A3 and moving towards F8. Right. So obviously these two diagonals do not meet because the one is on a black square and the other one is on a white square. Exactly. So so in logic, let us, for example, think about a question that would be one using logic. If I was to ask, not you, but I would ask, for example, a student and say, imagine there are two planes flying and they are going to be passing this point at the very same time. Right. So at 5 o'clock, they both are going to be passing that point. But what would make them not to crash? All right. So of course, that would be probably altitude. One would be flying higher than the other one. And so on. But it shows you that actually that logical way of thinking and that ability to look at a question is what you actually are dealing with in chess. And before we move on to the next question, I would like to highlight, because I did this intentionally, just to think about, just chess squares and files, ranks, diagonals. But if you were to think about in mathematics, the Cartesian plane, where we talk about the X and the Y axis, right? This is probably the last time you had told me that probably around grade 9, one would do the equation of a straight line, right?
I think so. Now, grade 9, so
around there, So now this would be, for an example, that graph, and of course that's where you'd have 0, and then you have 1, 2, 3, along the axis. The other one would be minus, right, and so on. So, but the method is exactly the same as that of a diagonal. Why am I saying that? Well, you would pick a point that is relevant for X and Y, right? A change in X and a change in Y. In chess, it would be file and rank. So, for an example, in chess, it is A. Okay. And then on the rank, it is 1. So A1. And then you would look for another point. And you would say, let's say G7. Right? So it would be on the G file, but on the 7th rank. Now think about it in mathematical terms. That means it would be on the x-axis as well as on the y-axis. Then you put that point, and then you join them together, and then you would have a straight line. Maybe I should use a different color. Then you would join these two lines together like that, and you would have a straight line. And that would be the equation of a straight line, y equals to mx plus c. And if you look at it, you are able to learn this concept, even if you are in grade 1, grade 2, right? Mentally, your mind is in a position to understand that concept. It doesn't seem foreign anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Exactly. It doesn't seem foreign anymore. And even if you think about things like map reading, where you actually look at longitudinal and latitudinal lines to find a certain point on a map, that would also play a role. You think physics, vectors, that would play a similar point. So, it actually is something that one should consider if one, is at school, because it's in a fun way, and at the same time you'll be getting some of these ideas. Okay, let's make our last. I'm not going to let you go so easily, because you were able to. You were able to get the answer so quickly. It's quite amazing.
I'm learning from the best, so it makes sense. I'm learning from the best.
Thank you very much for that compliment. So I'm going to try and throw a curveball, as Americans always say, at you. So let's do this one. Normally, this one is quite tricky. We are going to look at the chessboard, and we are now going to take it closer to home. What do I mean by this? We are going to still be looking at the chessboard, but this time we are going to place pieces on the chessboard. So we will take a knight, and we will place this knight on b1, and we will place a pawn, say, on g7, as an example. So now, before we even go into this, now I'm doing this for the purpose of somebody who does not know how the pieces move, right? Now, the knight in chess can move to any direction. So any of the directions, however, there are rules, obviously.
Yes.
You are allowed to move in any direction, but you must move 2 squares. So for an example, if you are going to the right-hand side, you have to go 1, 2, and then you have to turn left or right. So for example, if you are here, you can go, let me make with arrows, 1, 2, you don't move to the squares, but you're counting, it's along the way, and you are able to land on a3, or you can go 1, 2, and you are able to land on c3.
On c3, okay.
Right. And then when you're on c3, the same method. For an example, let's say you're on a3, you can go with a different color, 1, 2, and then you can turn into c4, and so on, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So now, may I ask that you write the position of the knight on your piece of paper? So the knight is on, this is not going to be easy. Sorry about that. This is not going to be easy at all, but not impossible, but not easy. So the knight is on b1.
Right.
And the pawn is on g7.
Okay, so the knight is on b1.
Right. And the pawn
is on g7.
Exactly. But the pawn will not move. So only the knight, we're only going to move the knight. You can move the knight as often as you want, and to, whichever squares and so on, direction you want. But your task is to tell us the path that you will take for the knight to capture the pawn. And what we're going to do, we're going to make it interesting, and we're going to...
Oh, no. You're going to take away the board.
Unfortunately. Well, this is like a pretty difficult one. I mean, it cannot get more difficult than this. And actually, by the way, this is what happens when at the highest level, the chess players are calculating what to play. So they'll have to say, okay, I'm going to move my knight to c3, and my opponent will move their bishop to f5, just as an example. If I move my knight to e4, their bishop on f5 will capture my knight. So that's how they would be calculating, So we're just trying to show this. So now we are using logic. We are using ability to creates creativity as well, because you have to be able to visualize and so on. So yeah, please, you can start.
As it is, I've already forgotten where the pawn is. I know that my knight is on b1, and then
pawn is on g7.
The pawn is on g7. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. So my knight is moving 1 to 10.
Right.
So I would be, let's just see here. Wow. My when I'm under pressure, my brain tends to go blank completely.
No. But that is that, and I like that. I like you saying that, because what actually has to happen is that whenever one panics, your parachute, so to speak, is logic. So let us use logic. Our knight is on b1.
b1, right.
So if we are to move forward 2 squares, let's do that, sort of verbally. So it means to move, we would not place the knight, but we would move to b2, and then we would move to b3, and then we would turn right, for an example, to c3. To
c3, correct. That's exactly what I'm thinking, that I'll take my knight, move b1, b2, 10 at c3.
Very good. So now you're on c3, and now what is your path? You still have to move towards g7. Take as many moves as you want.
Okay, so what I would then do, if my aim is to go to g7, I would then go to, from c3, I would move c4, c4, c5, and then 10 at d4. No, it's 10 at d5, because I'm moving from c3. So my 1, 2, 10 is c4, c5 to d5, right?
Bingo. Very good. So then first you went to c3, and now you're on d5.
d5, very good. Right. Then I just need to keep remembering where my pawn is. My pawn is on g7. So it is here. I'm on d5. I just want to make sure I get this right. So that means then my 1, 2, 10. Oh, so then I would go to e6, move up to e7, and 10 at, no, is it g7? No. Okay.
But remember, you are on d5.
I'm on d5, yes, I'm on d5. So my 1, 2, 10 is imagination is everything right now.
Not a problem. But okay, I will, I can make a suggestion. So you are on d5. So why don't you go towards the pawn? So now if you think about D, you are on D, then there's E, F, and G. So you have to turn right at some point, right? Okay. Towards the pawn. You're going to have to move towards the pawn. So let's try maybe now from D5 to move right. So where would you land? So you are going like from D5, E5, F5, like that. That's how you're calculating.
So from D5, I'm going to E5. That's my first, and then go to F5, and then 10 to F6.
Bingo. No, you're doing very well. You are doing very well. Now your knight is on F6. Very good. So your knight is on a black square. F6 is a black square. And the pawn on G7 is also on a black square. So now all you have to do is to move to a white square, and then you can capture the pawn. Okay,
so my knight is on F6, which then would mean that, wait. The things I have to keep imagining where the pawn is. The pawn is on G7. G7. Where's G7? Where are you, G7?
On a black square.
Okay, G7. And my knight is here. So that means 1, 2. I have to take 1 to 10, right? So 1, 2, 10. Wait, me capturing my pawn has to include the 1, 2, 10 method, right? It cannot be less moves.
Exactly. So that's a very good point. When you capture something, it has to be on the last. on the third move. So if you are to imagine the 1, 2 as the first two moves, the third move is where you land. So you're going to have to capture on your third move. Right?
Why am I not? Okay, because if I'm on F6 and my
you
pawn
cannot
is
capture G7 because it's both black squares.
yes, exactly, and it doesn't even allow me to do my 3 moves. So I will then have to go to, but I'm going back. If I'm on F6, okay.
Let me give you a trick that you may use that may be helpful.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
doing very well. What may be helpful is to think from G7, the squares that you need to move back to. Maybe one of the squares that you can move back to, you can access with your knight. For example, from G7, the next square, G6, G5, H5, H5. If you're on H5, you can take the pawn. You are now on F6. So can you reach F6 from H5 from F6? That is the question.
It's so hard to do this. It's a bit challenging. Okay, let me not say hard. It's a bit challenging to do it without the board because
I know that is the but you're already on F6.
I know I'm already on F6. It's just what's
okay.
really,
let me cut you some slack. Let me cut you some slack.
What's my brain is the fact that now I feel like I'm limited in terms of imagining the thing. Okay, let's take the knight to F6 so that
right. So I'm going to use your route, which was a brilliant route. You went to C3. After C3, you went to D5. After D5, you went to F6. So now you're on F6. And now you can capture the pawn in 2 moves.
Yeah. Okay, so my pawn is here. It's on F6. That means, okay, let me start where the pawn is and go back. So that means 1, 2, 10. 1, 2, 10. No, not that route. 1, 2, 10. I'm just trying to see. Okay. I feel like I'm overthinking this, and it's so simple. So my pawn is here. So if
think about it in terms of colors, you need to move to a white square.
Yeah.
Your pawn is on a black square. You need to move to a white square, and your knight is already on a black square. So you can do that immediately. The question is which white square?
I can see which way, though. I know I could literally even move from F7. I could take my left and say from F6, I go to E6. But where I'm having such a block is literally the fact that even if I take my 1 to 10, to get to the pawn still is a bit of a challenge. 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to. Okay, I've got it. 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Okay, I've got it. So from F6, I'm moving to okay, let me look at my thing. I'm moving to F7 and right to F8 and 10 to G8.
Oh, G8, not I thought E8. Maybe I could help you there.
No, G8. That's what I'm in.
Okay. If you go to G8, you're going here.
Yes. Then maybe I could be wrong, but let me try. Then my 1 to 10 would be 1 to 10. Then I would move to H8.
But then you can't go twice. You can't go 1, 2.
Oh, it has to move in a straight. Oh, okay, I need help. I'm stuck here. This is
no. But here you're doing well. What about going to E8? Okay, try going to E8.
Okay, so if I'm landing at E8,
right?
If I'm landing at E8, okay, can we just move the knight to E8?
There we are.
Then, and then take it to F8,
right.
G8, and then 10. Wow, that was a challenge.
Bingo. But you know what? that was a pass. That was a pass. But as I said, no, you know what? The reason why it became difficult, I'll tell you what it was.
Yeah.
It's because at first we started by taking away the board. So now you really have to visualize and use other parts of the brain, so to speak. And then we brought the board back, and then now you were using your eyes, and so there was some kind of a clash. But yeah, I think you did extremely well. Really, you did very well. And I hope that the public out there found this very interesting. And actually, this is just snippets of what happens when you are playing chess. And now imagine, I'm saying now to the moms and the dads out there, imagine your child, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, playing this game, and you could be playing together, having fun, laughing about it. But at the same time, all these concepts are you are learning these concepts in a fun way without even knowing it, actually. You could just be playing this game and you are learning all these mathematical concepts. And that is what we are all about. So thank you very much for being a very good sport and a brilliant student, by the way, so that we could actually show everyone how it's done. So I would like to say thank you very much, Noluthando. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Watu, and thanks to Blue Frontier Path SA for teaching me a new skill. And like I said, that we have to always challenge ourselves. And more than anything, this game is just as fun as a game of 30 seconds, a game of Monopoly. It's about applying your mind, etc. So but there's just still a lot to learn. And hopefully, soon I can get a chessboard and be able to memorize all these things, because it's not so easy to do it without the board. I don't want to lie. It's not easy at all. It's almost borderline, not easy, frustrating, where you actually feel very frustrated.
No, I understand that fully. And actually, that is why I would say, I would challenge even, mothers, fathers out there to play, because we have different, there are different, what shall we call it, sort of types, we could say, of learning. Some people are very good at listening, some people are very good at moving things, feeling them. And so I understand fully what you are saying. You would probably, be at a better place if you were able to actually see the board and move it, because that in itself also plays a role, But you did very well, and thank you very much. And I guess I'll see you next time on our other session.
Thanks so much. Hopefully we'll have more other mothers as well as dads, not only mothers and fathers, siblings and cousins playing together. But thank you for your time, and thank you for the lessons for today.
Thank you very much, Noluthando. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.